Most people lose their power long before they lose an argument. They lose it in a single moment when they become offended, rush to explain themselves, or cannot resist the urge to react. Human nature is predictable. People test your patience, provoke your emotions, and quietly study your responses. The moment they discover what disturbs you, they discover how to influence you. But there is a rare kind of person who cannot be manipulated so easily. They have mastered one simple habit. They react less, observe more, and move through life with a quiet power that others can sense, yet never fully understand. Here are 5 signs that you are becoming one of them. 1. You stop explaining yourself. One of the clearest signs that you are becoming mentally stronger and more powerful is that you no longer feel the need to explain yourself to everyone. Most people live as if they are standing in a courtroom, constantly defending their choices, justifying their decisions, and trying to convince others that they are right. They explain why they changed careers, why they ended a relationship, why they declined an invitation, or why they chose a different path. What they fail to realize is that excessive explanation often reveals insecurity rather than confidence. It sends a subtle message that they still depend on the approval of others to feel certain about their own decisions. Power begins the moment you understand that not everyone deserves access to your thoughts, your motives, or your plans. Some people are not seeking understanding, they are simply looking for weaknesses, contradictions, or opportunities to question your judgment. The more you try to persuade them, the more control you hand over. Truly powerful individuals understand that their energy is too valuable to spend seeking validation. They let time, consistency, and results speak for them. They know that people who genuinely matter will understand without lengthy explanations, and those determined to misunderstand would never be convinced anyway. Silence in these moments is not avoidance, it is discipline. It is the quiet confidence of someone who trusts their own path and no longer needs permission to walk it. 2. Insults no longer disturb you. Another powerful sign that you are learning to react less is that insults gradually lose their ability to affect you. Most people react to criticism almost instinctively. The moment someone mocks them, questions their worth, or speaks disrespectfully, they feel an immediate urge to defend themselves, argue back, or prove the other person wrong. This reaction is understandable, but it also reveals something important. When your emotional state depends on the words of others, your peace is no longer your own. As you grow stronger, you begin to understand that many insults have very little to do with you. They often reveal far more about the person delivering them. People insult what they envy, attack what they do not understand, and attempt to diminish what makes them feel insecure. An angry person wants company. An insecure person seeks superiority. A jealous person looks for ways to pull others down. Once you recognize this pattern, insults start to appear less like personal attacks and more like windows into another person's internal struggles. What truly unsettles people is not a clever comeback, but the absence of one. When someone expects to provoke you and instead encounters calmness, composure, and indifference, they lose the power they hoped to gain. They were looking for emotional access to you and found the door closed. This does not mean accepting disrespect or becoming passive. It means choosing your responses wisely and refusing to let every careless opinion disturb your inner balance. The strongest people are not those who win every argument. They are those who understand that their self-worth is too firmly rooted to be shaken by the temporary emotions or judgments of others. 3. You observe before you speak. One of the most overlooked signs of inner strength is the ability to observe before speaking. Most people are conditioned to react instantly. The moment they hear something they dislike, they interrupt, defend themselves, argue, or rush to express an opinion. They believe that speaking quickly demonstrates confidence, intelligence, or authority. In reality, impulsive speech often reveals the opposite. It exposes emotional dependence, impatience, and a lack of control over one's own impulses. People who possess a deeper understanding of human nature know that the first thing said in any interaction is rarely the most important. Words can be rehearsed, manipulated, and carefully chosen to create a desired impression. What matters more is everything that surrounds those words. It is the slight hesitation before someone answers a question, the shift in tone when a sensitive subject is mentioned, the sudden change in facial expression, or the subtle inconsistency between what a person says and how they behave. Those who react immediately are too busy preparing their responses to notice these details. Those who remain silent for a moment gain access to information that others miss entirely. Observation allows you to see beyond appearances. It teaches you that not everyone who praises you admires you, and not everyone who criticizes you dislikes you. Some people compliment in order to gain favor. Others criticize because they feel threatened. Some ask questions out of curiosity, while others ask questions to gather information they can later use against you. If you respond too quickly, you surrender valuable opportunities to understand the intentions hidden beneath the surface. Before speaking, powerful individuals develop the habit of asking themselves a simple but transformative question: what is truly happening here? They do not focus only on the words being spoken. They examine the emotional atmosphere, the timing of the conversation, the person's past behavior, and the possible motives behind their actions. They understand that human beings are rarely driven by logic alone. Pride, insecurity, envy, fear, desire for validation, and hidden ambitions often shape behavior far more than people are willing to admit. This ability to observe creates an enormous advantage. In disagreements, it prevents you from saying things you later regret. In relationships, it helps you recognize patterns that reveal a person's true character. In professional settings, it allows you to identify power dynamics, hidden agendas, and opportunities that others overlook. While most people are busy reacting emotionally, you are quietly collecting information and seeing the larger picture. There is also a psychological effect that silence has on others. When you do not rush to speak, people often continue talking. They fill the empty space because silence makes them uncomfortable. In doing so, they reveal more than they originally intended. They disclose their frustrations, expose contradictions, and unintentionally communicate their priorities and weaknesses. A patient observer understands that people frequently tell you who they are, but only if you resist the urge to interrupt them. Learning to observe before speaking does not mean becoming passive or withdrawn. It means becoming intentional. It means recognizing that your words carry more weight when they are chosen carefully rather than scattered impulsively. A measured response commands more respect than an emotional reaction. People begin to notice that you are not easily provoked, manipulated, or pressured into revealing your thoughts. They realize that you speak because you have something meaningful to say, not because you feel compelled to fill every moment with noise. Ultimately, the person who observes before speaking gains something far more valuable than the satisfaction of winning an argument. They gain insight. They learn to understand people as they truly are, rather than as they pretend to be. And in a world where most individuals are eager to express themselves but unwilling to listen, the ability to remain silent, watch carefully, and speak with purpose becomes a rare and powerful form of influence. 4. You become comfortable with misunderstanding. And one of the most difficult yet liberating lessons a person can learn is that not everyone will understand them, and not everyone is supposed to. Most people spend a significant part of their lives trying to manage how they are perceived. They explain themselves repeatedly, soften their opinions to avoid criticism, and shape their behavior around the expectations of others. They fear being judged, rejected, or talked about. As a result, they become trapped in a constant struggle to maintain an image that satisfies everyone around them. But the pursuit of universal understanding is a battle that can never be won. The desire to be understood is natural. Human beings are social creatures, and acceptance provides a sense of safety and belonging. However, there is a subtle difference between wanting to be understood and becoming emotionally dependent on it. The moment your peace depends on everyone approving of your decisions, agreeing with your choices, or accurately interpreting your intentions, you hand over control of your emotional state to people who may never have earned that privilege. As you begin to react less, something changes within you. You gradually realize that misunderstanding is not always a problem to be solved. In many cases, it is simply an unavoidable part of living authentically. Every person interprets reality through the lens of their own experiences, insecurities, desires, and beliefs. Two people can witness the same action and come away with completely different conclusions. One person may see confidence, while another sees arrogance. One person may interpret your silence as wisdom, while someone else views it as weakness. One person admires your boundaries, while another accuses you of being distant or selfish. The same behavior can inspire respect in one individual and resentment in another. Trying to control these interpretations is exhausting because they are not truly within your control. People rarely see you exactly as you are. More often, they see a reflection of themselves. An insecure person may perceive your independence as rejection. A jealous person may interpret your success as showing off. Someone who struggles with self-worth may feel threatened simply because you refuse to seek their approval. In these situations, endless explanations accomplish very little. They merely invite further judgment and often encourage people to believe they are entitled to access every corner of your mind. Powerful individuals understand that some misunderstandings are temporary and will eventually disappear through consistent actions. Others will persist no matter what you say, because certain people are invested in maintaining their version of who you are. They may have built an image of you based on old experiences, rumors, assumptions, or personal disappointments. Changing that image would require them to confront their own biases, and many people would rather protect their ego than update their perceptions. This is where emotional maturity begins to emerge. Instead of desperately trying to correct every false impression, you learn to distinguish between opinions that deserve your attention and opinions that do not. If someone genuinely cares about you, they will seek clarity before making harsh judgments. They will ask questions, listen, and give you the benefit of the doubt. But those who are committed to misunderstanding you are not looking for truth. They are looking for confirmation of the story they have already chosen to believe. One of the greatest sources of unnecessary suffering comes from trying to defend yourself against every criticism, rumor, or distorted narrative. You hear that someone spoke negatively about you, and immediately you feel compelled to explain yourself. You discover that people misunderstood your intentions, and your instinct is to convince them otherwise. Yet, the more energy you spend chasing approval, the less energy remains for pursuing your goals, developing your character, and protecting your peace. Learning to become comfortable with misunderstanding does not mean becoming indifferent to everyone around you. It does not mean refusing feedback or isolating yourself from meaningful relationships. It means accepting a profound truth. Your responsibility is to act with integrity, not to control every interpretation of your actions. You can communicate honestly, treat others with respect, and remain consistent in your values. But beyond that, how others perceive you belongs to them. There is also a hidden advantage in allowing certain misunderstandings to remain unresolved. When you stop explaining every decision, people are forced to observe your actions over time. They can no longer rely on your words alone. They must watch how you behave under pressure, how you handle setbacks, and whether your actions align with your principles. Over time, consistency speaks louder than self-defense ever could. Those who are perceptive will eventually understand you. Those who are not would likely never have understood you, regardless of how many explanations you provided. Many of history's most influential figures were deeply misunderstood during their lifetimes. They were criticized, doubted, and sometimes even mocked because they chose paths that others could not yet comprehend. Had they devoted all their energy to correcting public opinion, they might never have accomplished what made them remarkable in the first place. They accepted that misunderstanding often accompanies growth because people tend to judge based on familiarity, and anything unfamiliar can initially provoke discomfort or resistance. Ultimately, becoming comfortable with misunderstanding is not about withdrawing from the world. It is about reclaiming ownership over your inner life. It is about recognizing that your worth does not increase when everyone praises you, nor does it decrease when someone fails to understand you. You stop living as a performer seeking applause from every audience and begin living as a person guided by principles that remain stable, regardless of public opinion. At that point, you discover a rare form of freedom. You no longer feel the need to interrupt your journey to explain your destination. You understand that some people will appreciate you, some will question you, and others will never understand you at all. And for the first time, you realize that this is perfectly acceptable, because true power is not found in being understood by everyone. It is found in remaining faithful to yourself, even when others choose to misunderstand you. 5. Your presence starts commanding respect. One of the most powerful transformations that occurs when you learn to react less is something that cannot be measured, purchased, or easily explained. It is reflected in the way people begin to respond to your presence. They may not understand exactly what has changed, but they sense it. Conversations unfold differently around you. People become more careful with their words. They pay closer attention when you speak. Those who once attempted to provoke you find themselves hesitant, uncertain, and unable to predict your next move. Without demanding attention, without raising your voice, and without trying to dominate anyone, you begin to command a different kind of respect. Most people mistakenly believe that respect is earned through constant self-promotion, clever arguments, or displays of superiority. They think respect comes from always having the perfect response, winning every disagreement, or proving others wrong. As a result, they spend an enormous amount of energy trying to establish their importance. They interrupt conversations to make their opinions heard, rush to defend themselves against criticism, and feel compelled to react to every challenge directed at them. Ironically, this constant need to prove themselves often weakens the impression they leave behind. The more desperately someone tries to appear powerful, the more they reveal their fear of being overlooked. True respect operates differently. It grows from emotional stability, consistency, and self-possession. People naturally trust and admire individuals who remain composed when circumstances become difficult. Anyone can appear confident when life is comfortable, when they are receiving praise, or when everything is going according to plan. But very few people can maintain their composure when they are criticized unfairly, ignored by others, spoken to disrespectfully, or confronted with disappointment. These moments act as tests. They expose the difference between those who are governed by impulse and those who govern themselves. When you stop reacting impulsively, people begin to notice that your emotions are not easily manipulated. They see that praise does not make you arrogant, and criticism does not make you defensive. Approval no longer causes you to become dependent, and rejection no longer causes you to lose your sense of worth. You develop a kind of emotional independence that many people spend their entire lives searching for. This independence is attractive because it is rare. In a world where countless individuals are constantly seeking validation, attention, and reassurance, the person who remains centered within themselves stands apart. There is also a psychological effect that calmness has on other people. Human beings are deeply influenced by emotional energy. In tense situations, most individuals unconsciously mirror the reactions of those around them. When someone becomes angry, anxious, or panicked, those emotions often spread quickly throughout a group. However, the opposite is also true. A calm and grounded individual has the ability to stabilize the emotional atmosphere around them. Their composure becomes contagious. Others feel safer, more focused, and less driven by emotion, simply because someone in the room refuses to be pulled into chaos. People often associate silence with weakness because they have been conditioned to admire loudness, quick responses, and visible displays of confidence. But silence, when used intentionally, carries weight. It suggests that a person is thinking rather than reacting. It communicates that they are secure enough not to compete for attention. It creates an element of unpredictability, and unpredictability commands respect because it cannot be easily controlled. Consider how often people test one another in everyday interactions. Someone may make a sarcastic comment to see if you become offended. A coworker may attempt to undermine you in front of others to observe whether you react emotionally. A friend may criticize one of your decisions, expecting you to defend yourself. In many cases, these interactions are less about the words being spoken and more about determining how emotionally stable you truly are. People consciously or unconsciously search for weaknesses. They look for triggers, insecurities, and vulnerabilities that reveal where your emotional boundaries lie. When they repeatedly discover that you are not easily disturbed, something changes. The tests begin to disappear. Those who once enjoyed provoking reactions lose interest because they no longer receive the reward they were seeking. Manipulative individuals often depend on emotional access to others. They need anger, guilt, frustration, or fear in order to influence behavior. But when they encounter someone who remains thoughtful, measured, and difficult to provoke, their usual strategies become ineffective. They realize they cannot easily shape your emotional state, and with that realization comes a different level of respect. This does not mean becoming cold, distant, or emotionally unavailable. Emotional mastery is not emotional suppression. It does not require pretending that criticism never hurts or that disappointment never affects you. Rather, it means creating space between what happens to you and how you choose to respond. It means refusing to give temporary emotions the authority to make permanent decisions. Instead of allowing your first impulse to dictate your behavior, you pause, observe, and decide what response best serves your long-term interests, your values, and your peace of mind. Over time, this discipline reshapes your entire presence. You become less interested in being liked by everyone, and more interested in acting in accordance with your principles. You stop chasing approval because you realize approval is unstable. The same people who praise you today may criticize you tomorrow. The same crowd that celebrates you during success may disappear during failure. Building your identity around the opinions of others creates a fragile foundation. Building it upon self-respect creates stability. People are naturally drawn toward individuals who seem internally anchored. They sense that such people do not need constant reassurance. They do not bend under social pressure. They do not panic when circumstances change. They do not sacrifice their dignity for acceptance. They are comfortable being misunderstood, comfortable standing alone when necessary, and comfortable allowing time to reveal the truth. This quiet confidence speaks louder than any speech about confidence ever could. Perhaps the greatest advantage of reacting less is that it preserves your energy. Every unnecessary argument, every impulsive response, every attempt to defend yourself against trivial opinions consumes mental and emotional resources. Over months and years, these small losses accumulate. They drain focus, weaken discipline, and distract you from pursuing meaningful goals. But when you stop giving your attention away so freely, you recover something invaluable. You recover the ability to direct your energy toward growth, purpose, and self-mastery. Eventually, people stop remembering the specific words you said during difficult moments. What remains in their minds is the impression you left behind. They remember the person who remained calm while others argued. They remember the individual who refused to gossip, retaliate, or seek revenge. They remember the person who did not crumble under pressure. They remember someone who seemed in control of themselves when everyone else appeared controlled by circumstances. And that is when your presence begins to command respect. Not because you demanded it, not because you fought for it, and not because you convinced others to give it to you, but because you demonstrated a quality that few possess. In a world filled with people who react instantly, speak impulsively, and surrender their peace to every passing emotion, the individual who remains composed, deliberate, and inwardly secure becomes impossible to ignore. Their greatest source of influence is not found in what they say. It is found in the fact that they have mastered something most people never do: themselves. Power is not revealed by how loudly you speak, how fiercely you defend yourself, or how quickly you respond to every challenge. It is revealed by what fails to move you. The day you stop allowing insults to dictate your mood, criticism to shake your confidence, and misunderstandings to steal your peace, you become difficult to manipulate and impossible to control. Most people spend their lives trying to master others, yet never learn to master themselves. But the person who can remain calm when others expect chaos, silent when others expect explanation, and composed when others expect reaction, possesses a rare kind of power, one that needs no announcement, seeks no approval, and commands respect without saying a word. The less you react, the more powerful you become. The question is, what still has the power to move you?